My name is Jada Dortch, and my presentation is over Jupiter that I decided to pick on the planets over the solar system. Alright, my outline is going to be the evolution of Jupiter, the historical discoveries, the physical properties, the cellulites, and the 4 different moons that Jupiter has, and the explorations of Jupiter. First, I'll be talking about the evolution of Jupiter. The evolution of Jupiter's atmosphere is an Earth-like planet that lost all its atmosphere as soon as it was formed because the atmosphere drifted away. And Jupiter is primarily made of basic materials that include hydrogen and helium, and that is basically what Jupiter is formed of. And this picture right here shows the hydrogen and the helium coming together, and that just shows basically what Jupiter is made of. Next, I'll be talking about the historical discoveries. Galileo Galilei was the astronomer that found Jupiter, and he also found Jupiter's 4 largest moons that orbited the planet. That was also found as well. And he also found very intensive details of Jupiter. He was the first astronomer to find that too. I'll also be continuing talking about the historical discoveries of Jupiter. The ancient Greek name the planet after Zeus, the king of the Greek pantheon. Jupiter helped revolutionize the way we saw the universe and ourselves in 1610. Galileo discovered Jupiter's 4 large moons, as I stated before, and those names are Io, Euripio, Ganymede, and Callisto, now known as the Galilean moons. And this photo right here is Galileo Galilei with his telescope, which I'll be talking about later on. And more about the historical discoveries of Jupiter. As I mentioned before, his telescope, he was also famous for the invention of the first telescope in 1609. The model also was telescopes produced in other parts of Europe. And that could magnify an object 3 times, and he created a telescope later that the same objects 20 times of what the materials of Europe were coming up with. And this is a photo of one of his first creations of the telescope in a museum. And next I'll be talking about the physical properties of Jupiter. Jupiter is a very large, massive planet, and it has very low density. And it rapidly rotates on a thick, opaque atmosphere. And its diameter is 88,800 miles, more than 11 times than Earth. And also the mass is 318 times of what Earth is, and about 2.5 times of the mass of all of the other planets combined. And so right here, this photo is some more information of the orbital and physical properties of Jupiter. It goes more into about the mass, the radius, the density, the rotation, and the rings, and how they are wide and very extremely thin. And then my next slide that I'll be talking about is the physical properties of Jupiter. First, I want to talk about the orbiting and the rotating data. Jupiter rotates once in about every 9.5 hours, and the composition is Jupiter's is a giant gas that has no firm surface to touch down on. So basically it's very dense, like I stated before. The weather of Jupiter, the weather fronts include wind speeds of 100 miles per hour, and the wind storms on Jupiter can reach also as a high of 610 miles. So that's really fast. So it's basically a big ball of gas that has all winds, storms, and a lot of that goes on. And this photo is just Jupiter's Ganymede, and it shows the layers, and also it shows the dark terrain of Jupiter and the other stuff around it. I'll also be talking about on the next slide Jupiter's cellulites, and a small sweet definition of a cellulite is a small body orbiting around another large body. And this photo is Jupiter and small bodies orbiting around a larger body. And Jupiter cellulites, these are actually Jupiter's moons, all 4 of these. And these are the Galilean moons, which are the 4 largest moons of Jupiter: Io, Lirupio, Ganymede, and Callisto. First seen by Galileo in January 1610, and recognized by him as satellites of Jupiter in March 1610. They are also the first objects found to orbit around another planet, and which was Jupiter. So these are Jupiter's moon, which they're fairly large than just a typical moon, as you can see. Next, I'll be talking about the explorations of Jupiter. The explorations of Jupiter has been conducted via close observations by automatic spacecraft. It began with a revival of Pioneer's 10 into the Giovanna system in 1973, and as of 2016, it has continued within 8 further spacecraft missions. Jupiter's magnosphere in 1992, and then again in 2000. And this is a picture of the spacecraft hovering over Jupiter. And then some fun facts that I found about Jupiter. Jupiter's most famous feature is the giant red spot. It is a giant spinning storm, resembles a hurricane at its widest point. The storm is about 3.5 times the diameter of Earth. Jupiter is very windy because, of course, it is made up of helium and hydrogen. Jupiter is also the 5th planet out from the sun, and it's 2.5 times more massive than all other planets in the solar system combined together. It is primarily made of gases, which I stated before, the hydrogen and helium, and it's therefore known as the gas giant. And going back to the picture of Jupiter on my first slide, right here is the red spot that I mentioned just a minute ago. That's the red spot that's basically made of storms and hurricanes. And also the color differences in the Giovanna atmosphere. I found out that the color differences in the Giovanna atmosphere, Jupiter shows many shades, which are white, red, and orange, and browns and yellows, and that's caused by the changes in the windstorms and the chemicals reflecting off of the sunlight onto Jupiter. That's why its atmosphere is the way it is. And then also, a lot of people wonder if Jupiter is a brown dwarf. Actually, what I found was Jupiter is not a brown dwarf. It is 10 times too small, and it's 10 times, it would need 10 times as more mass that it does, because it has no mass at all. It's very low in density, and it's a big ball of gas, so it wouldn't be classified as a brown dwarf. And I found that, and that wraps up my conclusion. And I'll go back to my sources, everything that I found, and that's my sources for my PowerPoint, and that includes everything that I found about Jupiter.